They say that the beginning of the American Revolution was the shot heard round the world. But anyone who really understands history knows that through the years, there have been 1,000 shots heard round the world. For Pakistanis, December 27, 2007, was the shot heard round their world. Benazir Bhutto, the Muslim world's first female prime minister. She was shot twice in the head and once in the neck. She was 54 when she passed. After the shots were fired, the shooter self-detonated. The attack killed 28 others and wounded at least 100.
ये वीडियो क्लिप जो आपने अभी देखा, इसका दौरानिया सिर्फ 1 सेकंड है, जिस दौरान पहले 3 गोलियां चलने की आवाज आती है और साथ ही धमाका हो जाता है.
The American shot heard round the world is viewed as the beginning of the American democracy. But many Pakistanis saw the assassination of Bhutto as the end of Pakistan's democracy. She was well loved by many in Pakistan, a liberal leader who ended a decade of military rule and led Pakistan in the name of the people. Hundreds of thousands of her supporters attended her funeral the day after her death and rampaged through the streets, burning cars and stores to the ground. After several investigations, it was found that her death was connected to the Taliban, as well as Pakistani president at the time, Pervez Musharraf. To an outsider, Bhutto may seem like a clear hero. She broke the chains of military rule in Pakistan and ruled democratically. She made hunger, housing, and healthcare her top priorities, and sought to modernize Pakistan, a country that she loved so much she even died for. But those who look more carefully will realize that Bhutto's legacy is so much more complicated than that.
My mother always said, democracy is the best revenge.
Benazir Bhutto was born on June 21, 1953, in Karachi, Pakistan, to former Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Her father was the founder of the Pakistan People's Party and served as chairman until he was removed from office following a military coup in 1977, led by General Mohammad Zia al-Haq. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was then executed in 1979. In an interview with Dr. Dixie Bartholomew Feist, Dean of Buena Vista University History Department, voiced her opinion on the matter.
Her dad having been, in the government before her, having been raised in a family that was always tied to the government. I don't think she could have escaped her father's influence if she tried.
The Bhuttos to this day are one of the few hundred feudal families that have dominated politics and business in Pakistan since its 1947 creation.
She would never have gotten power without where she was born. She was born to money, which gave her access to education, which gave her access to a foreign education, to going overseas. It gave her access to many powerful friends. It gave us her access to a political party, because it was her father's political party. If she'd just been a regular woman, even a regular college student, she wouldn't have had a chance in that time and in that place.
Bhutto received a Bachelor of Arts in Comparative Government from Harvard, and eventually proceeded to study at Oxford, with focuses on international law and diplomacy. On December 18, 1987, Bhutto married Asif Ali Zardari, a wealthy businessman with whom she would bear 3 children. Zardari turned his marriage into a source of power once Bhutto took office at the age of 35 on December 2, 1988, succeeding General Mohammad Zia al-Haq. The truth is that Bhutto's administration was more than meets the eye. A number of deals went on behind closed doors that had critics questioning Bhutto and Zardari's loyalty to their country. During Ms. Bhutto's first term, Pakistani investigators claimed that they traced over $100 million to foreign bank accounts and properties owned by the Bhutto family. The investigators brought documents off an anonymous source that led them to a trail of secret payments made by foreign companies to the Bhutto family while Ms. Bhutto was Prime Minister. As Bhutto was both Prime Minister and Finance Minister, she had virtually free reign over her country. She typically took a populist approach to politics and stuck to the agenda of the Pakistan People's Party by portraying herself as the defender of the little man. However, she lost much of her support by the end of her first term in 1990 due to corruption allegations. Surprisingly enough, Even with all the corruption charges, Bhutto was given the benefit of the doubt and was elected into office for a second term on October 19, 1993. However, during and after her second term, there was still evidence found that she and her husband were corrupt leaders. A leading Swiss company designated to curb customs fraud in Pakistan paid millions of dollars from 1994 to 1996 to offshore companies controlled by Bhutto's husband and mother. Later on, Zardari was appointed to investment minister by Bhutto in July of 1996. He had to report only to her. There was evidence found that he exploited defense contracts, power plant projects, the privatization of state-owned industries, the awarding of broadcast licenses, the granting of an export monopoly for the country's rice harvest, and the purchase of planes for Pakistan International Airlines, among other things. In addition to all these specific corruption charges, things weren't looking good for Bhutto on a broader scale either. Bhutto ultimately failed at delivering all of the social programs she promised, with around 70% of the budget going to paying off interests on loans she took out while she was in office. In 2007, the New York Times claimed that her accomplishments in office were few. She claimed in later years that she clamped down on Islamic militants, established a strong basis for democracy by paring away many of the restrictions on civil liberties imposed by the generals, and providing a boost to the economy, especially in her second term, by attracting a flow of foreign investment. But on both occasions, she was dismissed, under pressure from the military on charges of corruption and incompetent governance. Bhutto's supposed corruption was not limited to her political life. Records show that she and her husband were extremely corrupt within the family as well. Back in 1985, Bhutto's younger brother, Shahnawaz, died mysteriously of poisoning in Cannes, France, after a dispute that her older brother, Murtaza, linked to arguments over family assets in Switzerland. Murtaza was killed the following year, after a power struggle with his sister and Zardari. Zardari was charged with plotting this murder, but Bhutto defended him and said he was framed. Unfortunately, due to all this apparent corruption within the family and political scheme, many citizens began to dislike Bhutto. One citizen online claimed that she was a corrupt woman who drained Pakistan's economy, money-hungry, who caused nothing but chaos when she came into power. She was not fit to run a country.
The idea of these strong political females talking about democracy and talking about shared political responsibility is threatening to some, and she was a unifying voice, she was a moderating voice, she was too friendly to a lot of Western nations for the taste of more fundamentalist views within the country.
Despite all this negativity surrounding her administration, Bhutto still had countless supporters who believed she wasn't corrupt at all.
She was popular with the educated. She was popular with certain groups, especially of young females who were benefiting from increased access to education, from increased freedom of the press.
Some of her supporters say that the supposed corruption related more to Zardari than to her, and they claim that Bhutto was simply too busy as prime minister to know about her husband's crooked deals. They thought that the corruption charges against her were baseless.
I have not been convinced that they had a solid basis. I think they were, and again, personal opinion, and from what I have seen, they were construed by her political enemies who wished to get her out of power, and a corruption charge is a good way to do it, because it's hard to prove that it's false.
The word corruption can be defined as an act done with intent to give some advantage inconsistent with official duty and the rights of others. Thus, the conduct must be a willful abuse of authority and not merely an error in judgment. Benazir Bhutto was undoubtedly a talented politician with a vision for her country. However, there is an overwhelming evidence that she committed numerous acts of corruption, meaning she was willfully dishonest with her funds, as well as appointing family and friends to positions of power in a way that would benefit her. Despite the evidence of corruption that plagued her reputation, she will always be remembered as an impactful, inspirational leader.
She was a symbol of female empowerment, of religious tolerance, of international cooperation, before it was kind of popular to be all of those things. So I actually don't think her impact can be underestimated.